All right, welcome back. A top U.S. intelligence official warns that China is targeting Joe Biden and his team. William Evanina from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has called this an influence campaign, quote, on steroids, and that there has been an uptick in China's attempts recently to infiltrate this country. So just how deep is China's influence here in the U.S.? Here to break it down, we're joined by Republican and singer Joy Villa, also the author of the book Kick-Ass Conservative, as well as Ted Harvey, who is the chairman of the Committee to Defend the President. Ted, I want to start with this. A leading Chinese professor, this is in China, a professor suggesting that China has infiltrated America's top inner circle. Take a listen.
全是核心圈啊，我们有我们的老朋友。
There's a lot of garbage floating around the internet right now, a lot of fake things. That video is real, and those subtitles are accurate. We checked today with 2 different Chinese speakers and confirmed that. What he just said, what you just read on the screen, tells the story. This is as close to a smoking gun as we have ever seen. Quote, we have people at the top of America's core inner circle of power and influence.
It's really something to watch that whole video and watch, Ted, what this guy talks about. I mean, he basically just boasts about how for a long time, they've just infiltrated this country. They've got people paid off at the top that are looking out for their best interest and not our best interest. And by the way, that video was deleted from Chinese social media because they're in control of everything over there. What's your reaction to that, Ted?
Well, it's not surprising. I think we all know that China has been actively engaging the U.S. government at the top levels all the way down to the state level and all across the world to try to push their communist agenda. And I encourage your listeners to go back and listen to a speech that Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, gave to the U.S. Governors Association back on February 8th of this year, where he talked about the fact that the Chinese Communist Party has a list of the governors who are friendly or who are not friendly, and they name them out by name. It'd be interesting to see who those governors are that the Chinese government thinks is friendly. This is something that's been going on for decades, and the American people need to wake up to exactly who the enemy is, and it is China. They are trying to influence our government at every level, no matter where they are.
Yeah, it's an awful country. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Joy, you know, the president we've watched over the last 4 years, he's come down pretty tough on China while trying to toe the line of a friendship with Xi Jinping. Obviously, they favor Joe Biden. They wanted Joe Biden to win this election. They went after all the states, the swing states and the red states, trying to push Trump out. Should we be concerned should Joe Biden take the White House?
I think absolutely we should be concerned because this is a man who is essentially bought and paid for by China. This man in this video, he revealed when he was talking to Chinese people casually, right? This is almost like a TED Talk. And of course, the Chinese government doesn't want this out, but Chinese people know that they have top officials here in this country bought and paid for with Chinese money. And one of them was the BDE or the BD organization, which we know is Joe Biden. So this is groundbreaking. Joe Biden, this is why we couldn't reveal Hunter's laptops, right? This is why the press and the media didn't talk about that, because they can't. Essentially, if we have Joe Biden as president, we will have China as president. I mean, this is an organization, this is a Communist Party run, state run, communist country that controls their people with propaganda, controls what speech is free or not, controls what can or cannot be said and done, kills their people if they defy them. This is dangerous, and we should absolutely be worried if Beijing Biden, as Trump calls him properly, ever takes office.
Yeah, and Ted, you know, after watching the media go absolutely nuts about a potential link between Russia and the Trump administration for all these years, the media does not care at all about all these links to American politicians from China, which I would argue is a worse actor than Russia in general. I think a more awful country, too, and a more powerful one as well.
Absolutely.
They don't seem to care about that, Ted, and they also did not care at all about these links between Hunter and Joe Biden and China. In fact, they kept the narrative from even getting to people when they were deciding on who to vote for. They actually did what China does best. They suppressed information.
You bet. I mean, you look at what the Twitter and Facebook did to the New York Post, one of the oldest and most reputable newspapers in our country. Yeah. They deplatformed them and said, as long as you're going to go with this Hunter Biden story, you are not going to be able to be on our social media platforms. And that's outrageous. This is one of the most important major breaking stories in the election cycle, right, that the Democrat presidential candidate's son is bought and paid for by the Chinese Communist government, and nobody knows about that. You look at the polls that has gone after the election, and they ask people, if you knew that Hunter Biden was so compromised, would you have voted for Joe Biden? And they said no, but they never knew that this information was out there because the mainstream media has totally blacked it out, and so is right, social media. So nobody that was voting in this election knew about this unless they were watching programs like Newsmax. And unfortunately, the majority of Americans out there are being brainwashed by mainstream media, and they're not getting the true news that is out there.
Yeah, Joy, I mean, when you look at what happened with this election, everybody's right now analyzing whether or not votes were changed, whether or not ballots were tossed. And what comes of that, we don't know yet. What we do know is that the media took a side in this election. They suppressed this information. The media did tremendous harm and absolutely exposed itself for what it is, which is just a national disgrace in protecting one candidate, doing nothing but attacking the other candidate for 4 years. And there's no excuse for any of that. It's an absolute embarrassment.
You're absolutely right. And you, like me, like all of us on this program and all of us in America, over 60 million people are outraged. We're outraged at this. We want to do something. We want to change these things, because this outcome, if we end up not reelecting President Trump, which is the fair and true outcome of this, if we elect Beijing Biden as our president, we will know that we have lost the ability to have a democracy, which is not the Democrats, right? This is the democracy that this country was built on. And we know that our republic is fallen. So we cannot let this happen. We cannot sit by and wait. So we know that Americans around the nation are doing Stop the Steal rallies. They're gathering, they're fighting this, they're taking to social media while they're not being censored, although many people are. Because if we allow China to essentially own America more than they already do, I mean, they have top officials in Wall Street. They donated over $30 million to the HWO, the WHO. We know that they have been seeking to control America since the 1970s, and Democrats have let it happen. Not just let it happen, but have literally taken the paycheck so that it can happen. So it is us, Trump, and the Republic versus China right now. This is the most important fight of our lives, and it's not over yet.
It is. It really is. You put it very well. Joy and Ted, thank you so much for joining us on this.